I made a video recently talking about why Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender could potentially be bisexual. The negative responses to the video were unsurprising but extremely disingenuous as to where the negativity was coming from. It was just straight up queerphobia. I can already sense people rushing to the comments and being like, just because we disagreed with you that Zuko is bisexual means we're homophobic? And that's the exact kind of disingenuousness that I'm talking about. I didn't argue that Zuko was bisexual, I suggested why he could be. I deliberately structured my argument as a potential consideration because, believe it or not, I'm less concerned whether Zuko is actually bisexual or not. The main point of that video was to really ask why it is non-queer readings of beloved male characters like Zuko feel far more acceptable than queer readings. What I found particularly annoying about some of the responses to that video is the condescending, I guess that's your headcanon. I mean, we're talking about fictional characters anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can believe what you want. The implication there is that my suggestion, emphasis on suggestion, of Zuko's potential queerness is not only wrong and totally implausible, but that it's delusional as well. And the "it doesn't matter" sentiment almost presents itself as noble. Like, yeah, you can think what you want, but we all know Zuko's straight with like a capital S. But is it really that my suggestion of Zuko's bisexuality is truly implausible, or is it that people straight up don't want him to be? If Zuko was actually confirmed as bisexual, you think people would have the same "it doesn't matter" energy? It wouldn't matter then whether his queerness would be canon because people would hate it. Velma became canonically queer, and were people happy about that? Were people like, oh, these are just fictional characters, it doesn't matter anyway? Her queerness becoming canon didn't matter. The actual queerness and suggested queerness of characters seemed to feel like a genuine imposition on queerphobic people, who are often far less passively queerphobic than they think. So many people, part of fandoms, are more queerphobic than they think, including the ones who say they don't have a problem with gay people, and including some queer people themselves. Because there were queer people in my comments too being like, oh, I knew this would happen after the movie, a man can say another man is attractive without being queer. When I didn't even mention that scene from the leaked movie in the why Zuko could be bisexual video, so that felt a little like projection. People don't like characters who are actually queer or suggested to be queer because a lot of people don't want to see queer people in their actual lives. They certainly don't want the male characters they like to be queer. Let's be honest, a huge part of why people don't like Will from Stranger Things is because he's gay, and I'd argue too, because he's close to Mike. People kept saying that it was uncomfortable to watch when Will was trying to flirt with Mike, making it seem like Will was making these boundary-violating advances towards Mike. People went as far as to say about my Zuko video, oh, I mean, sexuality isn't the focus of his character. He was spending time rebuilding the Fire Nation. Yeah, I'm aware. His assumed straightness isn't the focus of the show either, because romance isn't the focus of both Atla and a lot of fantasy and sci-fi media. People aren't so quick to observe straight romances in fantasy media and say, oh, this shouldn't be the focus, because objectively romance in general doesn't progress storylines in these kinds of stories. People pretend that romantic ambiguity isn't enough to suggest someone could be queer. I'm a resident queer. In the non-queer spaces I sometimes find myself in, people aren't sure about my romantic life. These are people who, know me, by the way, and have known me for years. They don't know I'm queer, they might suspect it, but they don't know for sure, and I don't talk about it. Many of the straight people in those circles feel super free to talk about their romantic escapades, and when they try to egg me on to join in, I don't. An example of how being around potentially homophobic people would cause any queer person not to share or disclose anything about their romantic lives. Someone in response to my Zuko video implied that romantic ambiguity and growing up in a homophobic culture wasn't enough to suggest Zuko was bisexual. As if homophobia was such an insignificant consideration, and I'm like, do you really think that homophobia isn't enough to even, not acknowledge your queer desires? If I've grown up in an environment where there are rigid expectations about my masculinity, and that includes not being anything but straight, that would create a great environment for me to explore any desire that might be anything but. I mean, I'm gay. I could go as far as marrying a woman, have children. I could ensure that I'm read as a straight person by the rest of society. But would any of that, like Zuko having a daughter, for example, take away the fact I'd be attracted to men? No, it wouldn't. But this discounting of homophobia is reflective of how people in fandom and in real life continue to downplay their own homophobia and make it seem like it isn't as impactful as it is, not just for queer people, but to straight people as well. Many people do not want to accept any suggestion that a character like Zuko could be bisexual, because in their world he can't be, because everybody cannot be gay, because the implication is that no one should in the first place. Believe it or not, I don't need Zuko to be bisexual. I don't need any of the characters I speculate about to be queer in any capacity. That does not affect my identity or my sense of self, but clearly the queerphobic segment of fandom and queerphobic people in general need constant reification of the conceptual and untrue belief that straightness and the straightness of the characters they love is not only natural, but equates specialness. So people can continue to say that there is nothing about these characters that are queer. I'll let some of you believe that you're good at discerning that anyway, because after all, it's not that serious. These are just fictional characters. This is all good fun, lighthearted conversations. But don't lie and say it's because you're not homophobic.